kiteboarding is, I don't want to say it's better than wakeboarding, but it's definitely easily as cool as wakeboarding, and it's different, and you don't need a boat, you don't have to spend money on gas, and you can go huge.
Spin as fast as you can, go as high as you can, and see how long you can survive up there.
Definitely offers kind of the person who can't afford wakeboarding or has a boat or lives near a lake, you know, the opportunity to ride every day for virtually nothing.
The popularity of wake-style kiteboards is growing rapidly, as more and more people are realizing the boosting potential of having their feet permanently attached to their board. Although it looks easy, it can be quite tricky in the beginning, and definitely requires a little more experience, since the flotation of the boards is less than that of a directional. Meet our pro kiteboarder and instructor, Fatty Isa, who along with some of the world's top kiteboarders will take us through some of the key points to successfully learning the wake style side of kiteboarding.
Okay, let's strap in and get going. There's a lot of different equipment available out there, so let's cross over to Elliot for some pro advice.
Elliot, one of the main pieces of equipment in kite surfing is the kite surfing bar or boom. What's your theory on bars, bar sizes, etc.?
Pretty much the rule of thumb is like the simpler the better. Typically, you know, the longer the bar, the faster the kite will turn, and the shorter the bar, the slower the kite will turn. So in certain instances, you want the kite to respond quicker in lighter winds so you can pump it faster. So you'd want to use a wider bar. And what you're looking for on the smaller bars is just less response time with the kite. This specific production board, the pickle fork, is meant 100% for kiteboarding, nothing else. And most of the other boards that you're going to see guys riding, well, they may be twin tip boards. They're meant to be ridden behind a boat, and they have a different purpose. They're meant for like boosting off of a wake and getting as much pop as you can off a wake, whereas these boards are meant to edge really well and be really fast. So they definitely have a completely different feel and ride much better off of a kite, just because of we're getting a completely different pull than you would be behind a boat. For myself, I usually don't vary the length of my board too much. Usually what I'll do is put up a bigger kite. So what it enables you to do is, if you have the ability to have every size kite, you can basically use one board, and if the wind gets lighter, instead of going to a bigger board, just put up a bigger kite. If you don't have that much wakeboard experience, I think a longer board will help you a little bit. Something like the 151, 161 range. Those boards definitely have a little more volume too, so if you're talking about going in dead calm conditions when you're just concerned about getting up and going, those boards will get up a little bit quicker. On this particular design, the fin is just giving you a little bit of tracking, and what's primarily keeping you moving forward and not sliding sideways is the rail of the board. So it's real similar to snowboarding. If you flatten the board off, you're going to slide sideways, and if you rail it over, you're going to go forward. So we're relying mostly on the edge to get our boards to track, and the fins are providing a little bit of that stability to keep it from completely sliding out. So that's all you're really getting out of the fins, not much tracking at all. Its purpose is just to kind of keep the tail in line when you're riding and up on the rail. Basically what you're looking for in a kite binding is easy entry and exit, but at the same time you want it to lock you in once you're in the water. So it's kind of a hard thing to achieve, because you know, if it's easy to get into and get out of, it's going to be easy to come out of the water. So allowing you to buckle it and ratchet it down helps keep your foot in there a little bit more. And also when you're bringing your kite into the beach, you can just pop the buckle and get out of them fairly quickly. Getting into them, the buckle allows you to open them all the way up so your foot goes in nice and easy. Once your foot's in, start ratcheting up the buckle. This locks your foot in, so you put it wherever you want it. It's real easy to do. And then you strap yourself in, so that pretty much locks it up top for you and gives you a lot more support. So mostly what you're looking for is a pretty narrow, a more parallel stance than you would for wakeboarding or snowboarding. or maybe towing the bindings out like 5 degrees. And also too, depending on the width of your wakeboard, you can skew the bindings to one side to favor the heel side edge. You don't want to skew it too much to where you're getting water wrapping over the rail and hitting the binding. So you want to position your bindings a little bit to favor heel side, and it'll make it easier to edge if you have a wider board. My stance personally is like barely duck. It's almost parallel. And mostly what you're doing though is trying to keep your body in a line and square with the board to prevent you from twisting, because that's making you get a better edge and you're square with the bar and the kite and the board. And usually what happens is when you start towing them out more and more, it forces you to twist to one side or another. So what we found is that more parallel stance and narrower seems to be better for edging. We use soap when we're getting in the bindings, like just dishwashing soap. We'll squirt a little bit in there, and that makes it easier. Just, you know, when your bro's handing your kite, you can slip right into the bindings really quick. Usually if you get a new pair of bindings, expect that your feet are probably going to hurt or fall asleep the first couple times you use them until they get broken in a little bit. That's pretty normal. But you definitely want them a little bit on the snug side, but not to the point where they're killing your feet. I mean, if after 2 weeks you're using your bindings and your feet are completely asleep and killing you, they're too tight. Hands down, definitely have like a floating inflatable kite if you're first learning. And then, you know, maybe later down the road you can progress into a kite where it's a little more high performance. Maybe doesn't relaunch quite as easy, but it's giving you a little bit more performance. If I want to go out and say all I want to do is just do really big jumps, I would probably use a ram air type kite and just go really overpowered and use that type of kite. And if I was doing more technical type handle pass tricks, I would use more of the framed kite, since those tend to stay a little bit further back in the window. And you're always usually dropping your kite too, trying new tricks, so it allows you to relaunch them pretty easy too. On the inflatable kites, on the inflatable frame kites, 30 meters is real standard. That's almost everyone's using 30 meter. There's only like 1 or 2 kites I'll put 40 meter on, and that's usually like the ram air inflatable ones. And those kites I only really use for just launching really big air and floating and doing more spinny type stuff. And the reason why I use longer lines is you seem to get a little more hang time than you do out of the shoreline. And also if the ram air kite does collapse, it gives you a little bit more response time to get the kite back up with longer line. But 30 meters is about normal what everyone's using right now.
So now that you've watched Volume 1, we'll assume that you're familiar with the actual launching of the kite. Depending on where you ride, launching and getting going on a wakeboard has a few options. The first option is to have your friends launch the kite for you and hold it ready until you get strapped in and ready to go. Both wrist and board leashes are recommended in the early stages. Keep the kite in neutral position. Once you're all ready to go, scoot out into the water until you're at least waist deep. Another option, again depending on the conditions and the area you ride in, is to have somebody launch your kite while you hold your board in one hand. This will take a little more practice since you'll be hooked in your harness from the start. If you prefer, you can drag out with your board in one hand, again controlling your kite with the other. Then when you're deep enough and comfortable, with your kite in a neutral position, quickly slip your feet into the bindings. If your bindings come with straps or buckles, make sure they're tight before you get going. wakeboard relies even more on a good edge than a directional board, so being powered up at all times is essential to both riding and being able to go upwind. The first few times on a wakeboard can be a little intimidating, since it feels more like slipping and sliding on a McDonald's tray than a board. Catching a toe side edge or just digging the nose of the board in will have you wondering about this whole wakeboard concept. But don't give up. With a little bit of practice, you'll get it in no time at all. Key things to remember. As you power the kite up, the same as you would on a directional board, initially keep most of your weight on your back leg. As you get pulled up out of the water, distribute pressure between your back and front leg. Don't overweight your back leg, as this will cause your board to spin out. Generally, keep your back leg more bent and lock it, pushing it towards your front leg. As you get pulled up, briefly point the nose of the board or your front foot towards the kite and keep your back leg under your butt. Once you get going, keep that pressure down on the heels. At this stage, you'll probably be skimming downwind across the water, just happy to be going, but watch that edge. Instead, as you get going, almost immediately dig your heels in to get that edge of your board in the water. This is a good time to talk about edging. As the wind gets stronger, you're going to have to keep even more of an edge to avoid getting out of control and crashing. Now the wind's going to feel like it wants to lift you up and out of the water, so it's important to keep your bar low, stay hooked in, and lean back. Also try twisting your hips in the direction you're going. At all costs, keep that heel side edge. Where should your kite be while you're edging? Depending on the wind, if it's lighter, you're going to have to fly the kite with more up-down strokes to maintain that power. If it's strong, you're going to want to keep the kite lower to the water at the edge of the window. Here, you'll have better control, better upwind ability, and you'll be able to keep your edge and maintain that speed.
I just saw Manu one day going out at lanes and kind of like clicked in my head that it was wakeboarding and windsurfing in one, which is, you know, kind of my two favorite sports. So immediately I started off on a wakeboard, and ever since then it's just been a blast. So, you know, every now and then I'll take out a big kite and go for some big airs. That's not really my main focus. In my opinion, it's mainly about the equipment. You know, if you have equipment dialed in for really lifty, you know, getting you big jumps, then you could go over 50 feet, over 60 feet easily off the flat water. I'm more into the tricks, you know, and then every now and then I get a wild hair and I go out and just try and, you know, go huge. But just doing the, mainly trying to adapt my wakeboarding tricks to the kite. That's my main focus for right now.
if you're out and you're overpowered, more or less what you're concentrating on is you're constantly edging the board, and what you're trying to do is force the kite to the edge of the window to sheet out as much as possible. So a lot of times if I'm really overpowered, I'm going a lot slower and I'm edging a lot closer to the wind, and usually what I'm doing is just trying to set up for a jump where I'll go really slow until I'm ready to jump, then bear off really quick, pull the kite, and then that's when you get like the really high jumps when you're really overpowered like that. So a lot of times you're kind of slowly plodding along, trying to keep the kite at the edge of the window and depowered, keeping the kite really low so that the pull is really low, because as soon as you bring it above you and you're overpowered, you lose a lot of downwind ground because it wants to lift you right off the water. So the key things you remember when you're overpowered is just to keep the kite as low as possible, edge your board as much as possible, and get the kite as far into the wind as you can to try and sheet it out. And then you're just kind of playing with the kite right at the edge of the window, powering it up and then depowering it. When I'm in underpowered winds, what you should really try and do is keep the kite moving a lot and forcing wind into it to try and get as much power out of the kite as you can, concentrating on keeping your board speed up by bearing off a little bit in the lulls, and then when you get a puff, edging a little bit more to get back up wind. So mostly you're just trying to milk it for whatever it's worth and get as much power as a kite as you can, just while keeping your board speed up.
Almost every session, let me rephrase that, every session you will have a crash and burn moment. Sometimes things happen really quick, so be ready for it and hold on tight to your bar, as sometimes you can get dragged for a few seconds. When you get dragged, curl your legs up behind you, keeping the bottom of your board facing upwards. This will help prevent your feet from being yanked out of your bindings. Get your kite to the neutral position as quickly as possible. If your lines get twisted, you're going to have to quickly pivot your body to untwist them. Do this by pivoting your body with your hips as a pivot point. Keep your kite over your head and pull down on the bar. Use those abs and bring that board back in front of you again. Now some harness lines use a swivel, which can be rotated to untwist the lines, but it's good to know both methods. Kiteboarding consists of many personal preferences, and one of these is whether to use a board leash or not. Either way, if some reason you do get separated from your board, how do you get back to it?
Best thing to do is to just leave the board there, make sure you know where your board is, and keep your eye on it. And what you need to do is, you're in a situation now where you don't have a board, but you can body drag into the wind. All you need to do is get in your harness and you're hooked into the handle. Bring your kite down, fill it with some power, let go with your front hand, dig your front hand into the water like this, you know, just under the surface, so you can get some friction in the water, and you'll be surprised, you'll drag right up into the wind. Do that for a little bit, for you know, a few yards, bring the kite back up and let go with your opposite hand, get going back out again, same way, and more than likely you'll end up catching your board. You just aim for your board, and it may take a couple of passes because the board is essentially drifting downwind with you anyway, and if you can just hold your course and zigzag back and forth, you'll end up catching your board again.
Okay, you're up and going. How do you get back? The easiest way of redirecting is a reverse heel side turn. The kite will need to function and perform the same as when doing a regular jibe on a directional board. Bring your kite from the position you were flying it, up past neutral and back in the other direction. Remember to sweep your kite from one side to the other to keep your speed up. Now for the board. When doing a reverse, put pressure and push the back edge of the board downwind so that it actually breaks loose and slides out. Transfer your weight to your new back leg. Maintain your speed and lean into the turn. Put pressure and push the back edge of the board downwind. Transfer your weight to your new back leg. Maintain your speed and lean into the turn. Here's a good tip. When you first try this, you should be unhooked out of your harness. But as you get more comfortable, you can stay hooked in. Try letting go of your back hand for more control. Put pressure and push the back edge of the board downwind. Transfer your weight to your new back leg. The more you practice, the faster it can be done, all by pushing your board harder and sweeping your kite lower. Try doing one off a wave. Let's see how Chris does it.
Pop the heel side carve, which is a really good one. That's one that anybody can do, but you can take it to like a million different levels. The trick is to calculate the radius of your turn by how much power you have in the kite. If you have a lot of power in the kite, you can do a nice big turn. If there's less power in the kite, that means you've gone too far downwind. You need to do a quicker radius turn. The object, I think the main point with this type of turn would be to try to keep power in the kite all the time. Because then, no matter what, it's still going to be pulling you through your turn, no matter if you're messing up one way or another. As long as you can turn the kite the other direction and keep power in the kite, you'll have a good turn.
Another option of turning is to do a front side or toe side turn. Apply all the same principles as with a reverse heel side turn. But instead of reversing your board, maintain your speed and lean into the turn all the way through. Bring your kite from the position you were flying it, up past neutral and back in the other direction. Remember to sweep your kite from one side to the other to keep your speed up. From here, you have some options. Stay on your toe side, slide onto your heel side, or you can just ollie onto your heel side.
Do a really nice, powerful turn. Basically come in once again with a lot of speed. Have the kite to the edge of the window, really pulling you. Actually kind of go downwind just a little bit, so you're getting pulled forward off of your heels. And then as much acceleration as you get, just crank the crap out of the kite, opposite direction. And then hold it there for a second until you feel the kite, or you see the kite perfectly going the other way. And then as you feel it pull from your stomach, usually stay in the harness if you want, unless you want to do drag your hand, you can unhook or whatever. But have it pull from your stomach and just use your body for balance and have it pull from right here. And then follow it through, and then try and keep enough tension on the kite so that right as you finish it and you're going the other way, you can push down and then pop the board around, and then you're still hooked in and you can get pulled right out of it. So it's real fast, real quick.
Airtime is what most kiteboarders live for. Big airs, twists, rolls, grabs, and handle passes are just part of the kiteboarding thrill. Launching off flat water, you're going to have to use your edge to get the resistance you need to get lifted. Generally, the harder you edge and the more power you can hold in your kite, the higher you're going to boost. Edge hard with the kite at about 60 to 70 degrees above the water, making sure the kite's powered. With the kite at 60 to 70 degrees above the water, steer the kite up and back by pulling with your back hand. At first, it's best to stay unhooked while jumping. As you get better, you can either jump hooked in or out depending on the move you're doing. Initially, just try small little hops to get the feel. Release your edge and bend your knees. At the apex of your jump, start steering your kite forward by pulling down on your front hand. Turn your board downwind and bend your knees to absorb your landing. Get back on your heel edge as soon as you can to avoid side slipping. So you're edging as much as you can, but you're still maintaining too much forward speed. That means that you've started your upstroke from a position way too low. This will result in a low horizontal jump that'll cause you to land hard and fast. Okay, key points. Edge hard. Release your edge. Keep those knees bent. Steer the kite forward to avoid stalling it out. Spot your landing. Point the nose of your board straight downwind. Absorb the landing. Get back on your heel edge as soon as you can.
Mostly what you're looking for is a lot of timing and a lot of feel, which is developed. Like, you know, you'll definitely do a few jumps where you'll definitely land on, you know, on your back, on your butt, on your head. You definitely learn real quick what not to do and what to do. As far as if you were to break the jump down, what you're basically doing is redirecting the kite in the opposite direction you're traveling. And at one point, the kite is going to pull you off the water. What you'll notice first is that we're always pulling the kite in the opposite direction we're traveling for like about a second or two, and then we just get lifted off the water. And what's happening is the kite's swinging over our head and creating lift, which is what pulls us off the water. And then it's just a question of keeping the kite more or less above your head as much as possible and redirecting the kite back down in the same path that you're flying in. Definitely bend your knees, because that's your shock absorbers. Usually what you're thinking about when you're about to land is redirecting the kite back in the direction that you're landing, which should be pulling a little bit more with the forward hand. You're trying to spot the water to try and land on the downslope of a piece of chop for a softer landing, and trying to keep your weight forward as much as possible. A lot of people tend to throw their weight on their back foot when they land and kind of butt check in. So you should kind of think about standing or being more upright over the board and your weight kind of forward so that you come in landing with a little bit of speed.
The easiest way to jump, to do any jumps, is to, if you're gonna, or any one-hand jumps, is to keep your front hand on the bar, because you're always going to be, or most of the time, you're going to be pulling the kite back to the direction that you were originally going. You take the position that you're going to do a normal, just as big a jump as you can, hooked in. Edge, power the kite, launch. I think there's a point probably when you become comfortable between, after you've taken off and in between getting to the apex, to the top of your jump, and that's when I probably would recommend grabbing with your predetermined rail, or decide, you know, at that point, I decide before I jump what I'm going to do. You grab, and I think you really just want to pay attention to maybe even looking at where you're going to grab until you actually grab. And then once you've grabbed your board, you can hold on really tight. Do some different things with your move. Pull it up toward your body. You know, push the board somewhere else. It kind of then it puts your board control in your hand, which is kind of a neat thing.
Okay, now that you've got your jumps down, let's get rolling. Front roll. Edge hard. Release your edge. Throw your head towards your armpit and let your body follow. Tuck in and roll. Where your head goes, your body will follow. Get back on your heel edge as soon as you can to avoid side slipping. Edge hard. Release your edge. Throw your head towards your armpit and let your body follow. Bend your knees and roll with it. Look over your back shoulder and let your body follow. Steer the kite forward to avoid stalling it out. Key points. Steer the kite up and back by pulling with your back hand. Release your edge and bend your knees. Look over your back shoulder and let your body follow. Keep your bar close to your hips. Back roll. Edge hard. Release your edge. Look over your back shoulder and let your body follow. Remember, keep your bar close to your hips. Get back on your heel edge as soon as you can to avoid side slipping. Remember, where your head goes, your body will follow. Steer the kite forward to avoid stalling it out. Keep your eyes on the water and get ready to land. Okay, now that you've got your jumps down, let's try some spins. Unhook. Release your edge. Lift off the water. Extend your arms and look over your shoulders, keeping the kite above your head. The bigger the kite, the bigger the jumps, but make sure you know your limits. Edge hard. Release your edge. Extend. Spin, keeping the kite above your head. Spot your landing. Keep your eyes on the water and get ready to land.
Your first few times jumping, what you want to remember is, say, if you're jumping coming in and your left hand is forward, you always want to think, in an emergency, if I'm spinning, I don't know where I am, I always think to pull with my left hand, and that should get me out of trouble, because that's pulling the kite back over my head and towards the direction of my landing. If I'm going the opposite direction with my right hand forward, and I start spinning, my emergency hand is my right hand, because that's what's bringing the kite back over me. So the last second, what you want to think to yourself is always pull with the forward hand if you get in trouble. You don't want to rely on that, of course, because you want to learn how to jump correctly and keep the kite more above your head so you get a softer landing. But every once in a while you'll pull, you know, right or left, and the kite will go way to the edge of the window and you'll just drop like a rock. And this one does hurt for sure. But that's all part of it, you know, it's part of learning.
Come in with speed. You can actually like try the craziest handle pass stuff. If you come in with a lot of speed, crank the kite as hard as you can, maintain just control, go downwind as fast as you can, and then right when you have enough control where you've actually probably passed the kite, chuck whatever you want, because more than likely the kite's going to fall out of the sky as you're halfway through your move. So it doesn't matter if you put the bar between your legs and scratch your ass. It doesn't matter because the kite's going to be falling out of the sky. So that's probably the safest way. And then that's going to be really fast, really low, and chances are you're just going to eat it, and hopefully you don't get your lines wrapped around your board when you're underwater, because you're going to probably go in head first. Then as you get a little bit more better with the timing, then coming in and going for the height, and that's when it gets tricky, because to get the height you need to have pop, and to get pop you got to have a little bit of lift off the kite, and therefore making the passes harder. So you got to find a happy medium there, and that's when it gets tricky, especially when there's not a consistency with the kite. It's not like a boat where you're always pulling at 18. It could be gusty, it could come in, there could be whatever. So that's why it's unpredictable and it's pretty hard to do.
It comes down to having enough kite skills where you can predict what the kite gonna do before you pass the bar. Sometimes by a fraction of a second that we won't make it, so we can just like flip to the other way. It's kind of tricky, especially if you don't have wakeboarding skills. It's kind of good to start visualizing a little bit, like passing the handle, even practicing in the beach and stuff. So like when you're out there, like what it's gonna feel like when you have the bar going around you and you have to reach with your other hand. A lot of times you think the bar is there and it's pulling a little far and your hand won't reach. So it's kind of good to visualize that before you try it.
Now that you've got your flat water jumping down, let's get into some waves. Maintain your edge all the way up the wave face. Steer the kite forward to avoid stalling it out. Keep those knees bent. Point the nose of your board straight downwind. Keep your eyes on the water and get ready to land. Edge hard. Release your edge. At the apex of your jump, start steering your kite forward by pulling down on your front hand. Spot your landing. Absorb the landing. Wave riding. Steer the kite in the direction you want to go. Follow the kite. To bottom turn, lean into your toe side edge. To cut back, lean back and push on your back heel.
When you're wave riding, using the kite a lot to help you bottom turn and come off the top, so you're almost kind of swinging it. When you start to bottom turn, and it's say a right hand point break and you're getting side shore winds, you pull the kite right as you're bottom turning to pull you through the turn, and as you come off left, or as you come off the top, you're giving the kite a little bit of left to bring you back into it. And a lot of it has a lot of feel, you know, because you're looking down the wave, you're looking at your kite, you're looking at the lips, you're thinking about a lot of different things at once. If it's gustier, I tend to keep the kite really low so that I don't get lifted off the wave or lifted out of the water. And then I'll just basically bottom turn, keeping the kite really low, and try to make a shorter radius turn as opposed to drawing the bottom turn out, stay more on the face.
So one day soon, do you think we're going to see somebody tucked inside a nice little barrel with the kite line sticking out?
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll happen. Even on a wakeboard too, to get barreled would probably be the ultimate that you could do, I think, achieve on a kiteboard. That's definitely like on the list of things to do.
Every professional athlete knows that, you know, if you want to improve your riding, you gotta try new stuff, and the consequences, you know, sometimes you get sore here and there, but you gotta take the beating if you want to learn it.
Woo!